Now, have you ever rewatched a movie that you enjoyed as a kid and thought to yourself, there's no chance this movie would be made today? No chance. And I think that applies to There's Something About Mary. So the first time we see Ted, we quickly realize that he's a sucker for love, and all he wants to do is fall in love, marry the woman of his dreams, and settle down. And to get laid.
I just wondered if maybe you're going to the prom
But there's one thing holding Ted back, and it's the simple fact that he looks like he wasn't made in the How to Be a Nerd factory. In other words, he looks like the kind of guy that would make girls go, ew, he's such a loser.
Oh, what a loser!
Right, so one day Ted sees a mentally challenged kid being bullied who goes by the name of Warren. And when I say kid, Warren is about 16 to 18 years old in this movie, but he really looks like a 35-year-old with a wife and kids, right? And that's because back then studios were like, I know he kinda looks like he's 50 years old, but just put some gel in his hair and make him dress like a 16-year-old. Nobody will know.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. How would they know?
That definitely wouldn't happen today. So Warren, the disabled person, gets bullied. Ted then walks in to save the day and the bully's like, what did you say, punk? And then shoves Ted to the ground. And then out of nowhere, this beautiful girl that everybody notices just comes onto the scene and she says, stop bullying my brother. And that just so happens to be Mary. So after being shoved, Ted stands up like, I just helped the brother of the hottest girl in school. Oh, yes! I'm in the game now, baby. And it pays off because in the next scene, Ted gets to walk Mary, the hottest girl in the school, home. So when they get to Mary's place, she goes, Ted, would you want to go to prom with me? And Ted's like, hell yeah, girl, let's do this.
Are you going to the prom?
Huh?
And she's like, great, I'll see you on prom day. Now, before I move on, let's touch on the scene where Warren gets bullied, right? Because that's a type of scene that would not take place today. I mean, back then it was very common for movies to use disabled characters as a plot device to provide comic relief or trigger sympathy for the main character.
You're gonna fall unless you take my hand.
No, give me your other hand.
Oh, my other hand isn't strong enough.
But nowadays, studios are far too sensitive about making fun of disabled people. And that's because social media would tear this scene apart, right? They would go, why is Warren being used as a plot device? And did the movie actually explore Warren as a character or use him just to get cheap laughs? Okay, so prom day arrives, Ted shows up to Mary's place and he sees her walking down the stairs like, ah, right? Like she's an angel or something. And then like 2 seconds later, he gets body slammed by Warren after attempting to give him a gift.
What the hell are you doing?
So Mary's like, oh, I need to go upstairs to fix my dress. So she heads upstairs, and then Ted then goes into the bathroom, and then we get the infamous Frank and Bean scene. And this scene would 100% not be made today. 100%. Keep in mind that this movie came out around 1998, and shock value, absurdity, and physical gags were a huge part of comedy. In fact, you could say that this movie brought back R-rated comedies, but nowadays people would go, wait, is this really funny, or is it just cruel? I personally find it funny, I can't help it, right? And maybe that's because I grew up on movies like this, so I'm very desensitized to this kind of comedy.
This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap, and people worrying so much about offending other people.
So in the next scene, we see Ted in therapy because after getting your hot dog stuck in a zipper, he was probably traumatized for life. I know I would be. So we see Ted in the therapist's chair, facing away from the door, and he's going, oh, I just keep thinking about all my debt, and Mary, and blah, blah, blah.
I worked all summer to pay off those debts, and I never saw Mary again.
And that's when the therapist walks in the room because he went out for a snack while Ted was talking. So when the therapist gets back in the chair, Ted goes, you know, I drove into a rest stop the other day, right? And then the therapist goes, did you know that the rest stop is a hot spot for gay people? Right?
Rest areas are homosexual hangouts.
So Ted turns around in his chair and he goes, what the hell are you talking about, man?
And what
the fuck is you talking about? What the fuck was that?
No, that's another scene that wouldn't happen today because in today's time, if you're gay and you want to meet another gay person, you have dating apps. There are also plenty of gay clubs out there. And same-sex relationships are not as taboo as they used to be. But back then, people didn't really know how gay people met other gay people. In fact, back then, people didn't really know anything about gay people. So they would say ridiculous things like, "Did you know that gay people love ice skating?" And you'd be like, "But I love ice skating."
Gay!
Nevertheless, the idea that men would meet other men at rest stops for intimacy is completely outdated and would not fly today. So in another scene, we see Ted talking to his boy Dom. And once again, Ted is talking about Mary. "Oh, Mary, I miss Mary, blah, blah, blah." And as they're talking, Dom's wife walks up to him like, "Hey guys, would you like a beer?" So Dom's like, "Honey, Ted doesn't want a beer. But can you be a dear and go into that kitchen and make him a cupcake?" Right. Okay, he actually says bake him a cookie. Right.
Like that, honey, we got cookies.
No, we don't, but I could bake some.
No.
He asked his wife to go into the kitchen and bake a whole cookie from scratch. And his wife's like, "Sure, honey. Anything for you."
She loves this kind of thing. Really? Yeah.
And she gets back in that kitchen. And the crazy thing is when Dom's wife walks away, Ted goes, "Bro, you are living the life. I wish I had a woman like that."
That's what I want.
And I swear to God, that's another scene that would not take place today. I mean, these days, if you ask a woman to fix you a plate of food, she'll be like, "Why don't you get that yourself, bitch?"
I don't cook, I don't clean, but let me tell you, I got this ring.
And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, I know some women nowadays love preparing a meal for their man, taking care of him, etc., etc. But at the same time, thanks to women demanding equal pay and working long hours at jobs, some would rather order food, warm up a frozen meal, or tell their husband, "Look, it's your turn to cook today." It's just a different time, man. And because women have progressed so far as of late, this whole scene would be offensive to some of them. So during this scene, Ted's friend Dom is like, "You know, I can hook you up with a PI, and he can help you find Mary."
You know what you should do is hire a private investigator.
So Ted's like, "Word?" And Dom goes, "For sure, I'm gonna hook you up." And that's another scene that would not happen in today's movies, because back then, hiring someone to find out where your high school crush is almost stalkerish. But anyway, nowadays we have social media for that. Right? Every high school crush is just one click away. You can click on your high school crush's page and she would never find out. And you'd be like, "Damn, Samantha's still looking good." So in the next scene, Ted goes to meet the PI, and then he walks into Healy's place, and you can automatically tell that Healy is a sleazeball. When Ted walks into Matt Healy's office, he sees near-naked pictures of women all over the wall, and he goes, "Yeah, I think this is the right person to help me find my severely hot high school crush." Yep, this is the guy. So Ted then hires Healy to help find Mary.
You expect me to believe this is a straight stalker case? Come on!
Okay, so in the next scene we see Healy go up to his friend's place and he's like, "Can you help me find this girl named Mary?" He's like, "Sure." So then Healy's like, "I know that you're a recovering addict and you've been sober for about 19 months, and I love you, bro. You're a good friend of mine, but would you like a beer?" His friend says no. Then Healy goes, "Come on, just one sip. You know you want it." So his friend goes, fine, I'll have the sip." And then he takes a sip of the beer.
Sully, it's a light beer. Oh, the big bad beer's gonna get you.
So then in a couple of scenes, we see Healy's friend in the living room. There's like 100 cigarettes on the table, booze on the table, and he's also doing that white girl, if you know what I mean. And towards the end of the movie, Healy shows up to his friend's place once again. And by the way, his friend's name is Sully, and Sully owns a dog and a snake. So when he shows up at Sully's place, he sees the snake looking all full, like it just ate something, and he goes, "Oh, I'm glad that snake is eating well. I hope he didn't eat the dog." And then a couple of seconds later, the dog shows up out of the blue like, "Hi."
I was worried about you. I thought that...
And that's when Healy looks at the snake like, "Oh, shit." Right? Because in that moment he realizes that the snake ate his friend, and that's because his friend became hooked on substances and then began to neglect his animals. So one day the snake got hungry because he was not being fed, and then he ate Sully. I'm sorry, man. I died during this scene. But that's another scene that wouldn't work today, and that's because relapse and addiction is taken more seriously nowadays. And also people nowadays are more aware of their mental health issues. So even though this scene is incredibly funny, I'm sorry, I still think it's funny. It wouldn't work today. Okay, so cool. Another scene that would not take place today is when Healy gets to Miami, his only job was to find Mary, find out a little bit about her, and then report back to Ted. But Healy goes, I'm gonna bug Mary's phone so that I can hear every conversation she's having. Then I'm gonna follow her around to learn her routine. And then I'm gonna sit outside her house with my binoculars and watch her take off her clothes at night. And once I've done all of that, then I'm gonna make her my girlfriend. What a brilliant idea.
That was the plan.
Not a great plan.
I know this scene worked so well in There's Something About Mary because back then we were more accepting of R-rated comedy, but in today's movies what Healy is doing is straight up manipulation and stalking. And let's just say social media would have a lot of problems with this scene. But let's keep it going. So while Healy's out there stalking Mary, Ted goes, let me go and see what Healy has found out about Mary. So he heads over to Healy's office and he finds Healy leaving his office with a packed box, and he also finds out that Healy is now moving to Miami.
Where you going?
Huh? Oh, I resigned.
So he goes, so tell me what you found out about Mary. Then Healy's like, I hate to break this to you, but Mary is fat as fuck right now. Also, she has about 3 or 4 kids, and she's not married because nobody wants to be with a woman so hideous. So Ted's like, great, I'm gonna see her anyway. Then Healy goes, oh, didn't I tell you? Mary is a mail-order bride and she's flying to Japan to get married. So Ted's like, hold on, this makes no sense. Isn't she fat as hell? Who'd really want her? To which Healy responds by saying, did you know the Japanese love fat women?
Don't forget, it's a sumo culture. They pay by the pound there.
And oh my gosh. Now, racial stereotypes were a huge thing in the 90s and were even seen as funny.
I'll bitch slap you back to Africa.
Oh, you will? Yeah. Well, come on, let me see that. Well, I want to see you do that. Goddammit.
But nowadays, reducing an entire culture to they love big white women because of sumo wrestling, that's a bit reductive. And it would catch fire online very fast. Also, fat-shaming women.
What do you say we go somewhere else?
That's a huge bitch.
I mean, I love this movie, so every joke in this movie hits. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I grew up in this time. But in today's climate, these kind of jokes would have been done in a less offensive way. That's all I'm saying. But moving on. So in one scene, we finally see Healy use all the knowledge that he gathered on Mary to finally begin flirting with her. He walks up to her at a golfing range and he's like, hey, do you mind if I borrow some change? And then Mary, who looks very uninterested right now, is like, sorry, I don't have any change. And that's when, in a stroke of genius, he says something like, well, that's a shame because I've only got these Nepalese coins.
All I got are these damn Nepalese coins.
And the thing is, because he's been stalking Mary this entire time, he knows that Mary likes Nepal, he knows what kind of man Mary wants, so he's essentially just being fake to get with Mary. Okay, cool. So they then meet up in the parking lot of the golf club, and this is where one of the most offensive scenes takes place, but I'm sorry, I found it funny. So because Mary sees Healy with a bunch of blueprints, she's like, are you some kind of architect? And Healy's like, yeah, I'm an architect. But that's not really what I enjoy doing for a living. Yeah, my real passion is working with mentally disabled people. I can't even say the word that he used.
I work with retards.
He then goes on to talk about a kid named Mongo who supposedly has a forehead like a drive-in movie theater and lives in a cage.
We got this one kid, Mongo. He's got a forehead like a drive-in movie theater, but he's a good shit.
And honestly, I feel so bad for laughing at this joke, but this is the one that made me laugh the most. I'm sorry, it was a different time. But yeah, this joke would not work in today's movies because back then saying the R word was just something that people did. They'd be like, hey, you R word. That guy is such an R word, right? But in today's climate, the R word has been dropped from medical and educational use and has been replaced with words like intellectual disability or mentally challenged. So this joke in There's Something About Mary was written to show that Healy was kind of a jerk. But in doing so, it still made the audience laugh at a disabled person. So yeah, while you can still say this word today, when you do so, it just makes you look ignorant or cruel. Okay, so despite being a jerk, Healy wins Mary over. And in another scene, Healy and Mary are about to go on a date. So before the date, Healy does what any normal person would do. He gets dressed to impress. He shows up to Mary's place to pick her up. And then he sits in his car with surveillance equipment to listen to the entire conversation that Mary's having with Magda.
Kind of a mook.
Schlep. Well, why the hell are you going out with him if he's a schlep?
You know, just normal people behavior. So when Healy is listening to the conversation, Magda's like, my dog can tell if people are good or bad. So if Puffy begins barking at Healy, that means he's a bad person. So Healy's like, oh damn, now I have to impress the dog. So instead of just showing up to Mary's place and trying to see if he passes the test, he's like, I'm gonna poison that damn dog. He then chucks what I assume is some sort of tranquilizer into Mary's apartment, and then the dog eats it. And in the next scene, Healy is all up in Magda's house. Magda's dog is curled up into a ball in Healy's arms. And to Mary and Magda, the dog is now taking a liking to Healy. In fact, Magda at this point loves Healy so much that she's like, I need me some of that. Right? So after this, the girls go into the kitchen to get Healy a drink. So Healy looks at the dog like, oh damn, this dog is not moving. What did I do? So he then proceeds to shock the dog alive using phone cables, mimicking a defibrillator, and then the dog comes back to life. And there's so many things that are wrong with this scene. Still funny to me, but they wouldn't fly today. I mean, for one, he poisoned a dog. Even if it's just a tranquilizer, drugging someone else's pet to manipulate them, that would instantly label them as a villain. It's also straight up animal abuse. Audiences today are way more sensitive to harm towards animals than even towards people. I mean, you can blow up a bunch of people in a movie and people will go, oh well, that sucks for them. But did the dog make it out? Tell me that dog made it out of there. Also, heavily mimicking a defibrillator using live wires and a dog's limp body, that's not just dark humor. That's the kind of thing that makes you want to call animal services. So yeah, that type of scene would not fly in today's movies. Not at all. So after these scenes, we see Ted driving to meet Mary in Miami. He then picks up a hitchhiker who just so happens to be a serial killer, and they both end up at a rest stop. And oh boy, this scene is insane.
Whoa!
And I've already spoken about this scene earlier, but the whole men meet other men at rest stops, that whole concept is very outdated. Or maybe I just haven't been to that many rest stops. I don't know. So after this, Ted gets arrested, Woogie then comes to pick him up, and they both end up driving to Miami to stalk the hell out of Mary, right? And if you're watching this movie from the perspective of Ted, then this looks like an ordinary guy who's falling in love with a woman. It looks romantic or whatever. But if you're looking at this from the perspective of Mary, it's almost like a horror film. She has 3 to 4 guys stalking her, but in the movie she's like, I guess these guys like me and follow me around because I'm a good person and not because I'm smoking hot or whatever. Yeah, they must like me for me. But anyway, soon after this is another hilarious scene, but it's extremely offensive. Extremely offensive, right? Remember how Mary would help mentally challenged people? She'd go and buy them food, then bring that food to the beach, and then she'd spend about the whole afternoon hanging out with them. Well, this time she brings Healy along for the ride, and oh my gosh, Healy goes crazy. When Healy's playing football with the mentally challenged people, he's like, well, I know you guys are mentally challenged, but BAM! He knocks one of them in the face, and then BAM! He knocks another one in the face so hard they fall down to the ground, and then he does it again. I'm sorry, man. This movie is just, it's funny to me. I can't help it. It's so funny. Also, when he's playing checkers with Warren, Warren looks away for a split second, and that's when Healy's like, right? He rearranges some pieces so that when Warren turns around, Healy then wins the game. And not only that, it turns out that they were playing for money. So Healy's like, time to hand over that cash.
Looks like I double jumped you, Warren, for the win. Pay up, big guy.
To which Warren is like, okay, you won fair and square. And he hands over the cash to Healy. Now, I've already spoken about why taking advantage of mentally challenged people would not fly in today's movies, so I'm just gonna skip past that. Okay, so about an hour and 25 minutes into the movie, we see Tucker walk into Mary's place. Tucker then goes, Mary, I got something to tell you. So Mary's like, okay, what is it? Tucker then says, I just wanted to inform you that Healy's actually a serial killer. And the reason Tucker does this is because he wants Mary all to himself.
Mary, the man's a killer.
What?
Okay, so at this point in the movie, Healy's name has been tarnished and Mary no longer trusts him. But luckily for her, now her other stalker is in the picture, Ted. So Ted and his boy Woogie are having a conversation about the date that's about to come, and that's between Ted and Mary. And I can't even talk about this scene for too long because it's a bit graphic, especially for today's standards, but Dan was like, so do you season your meat before you go out on a date? And Ted's like, no, why would I do that?
I've been going out with a loaded gun.
So Ted goes, that makes sense. And then he goes to the bathroom to season some steak, right? So when he does this, he loses some of the steak sauce and now he can't seem to find it. And that's when Mary rings the doorbell. So Ted's like, well, I can't find the steak sauce, so I'm just gonna answer the door. So he opens the door and Mary's like, what's that? Ted's like, what? That thing on your ear, what is that? And then Ted's like, oh shit, no.
Is that a hair gel?
So then Mary takes a handful of that hair gel and puts it in her hair. She puts it in her hair. And I don't even have to explain why this scene would not last in today's movies because it's self-explanatory. This was shock and gag. It worked back then because nobody had ever seen anything like it. And honestly, it made me laugh. I'm sorry, I died laughing at this. But nowadays, people would be like, ew, gross.
That's disgusting.
And that's because studios nowadays have tighter content guidelines. They're also very aware of social sensitivity and how far the line of what's funny has moved. Now, one of the last craziest scenes that happens in the movie is when Ted and the dog end up doing battle in Magda's house, right? Ted and the dog had a whole wrestling match right there in the living room. In fact, Ted gives the dog multiple pile drivers, multiple DDTs, and whatever wrestling move you can think of. Now, I've already touched on animal abuse, but it's the same thing, right? People would say, he body slammed a dog. This is animal abuse. I know it is, but it's still funny. I can't help it, it's still funny. Anyway, so after being a stalker for most of the movie, Ted then ends up with his dream girl, who chooses him over the other stalkers in the movie, and they then end up living happily ever after. The end. So yeah, this movie would never get made today, not in the way it was. There's something about Mary as a time capsule of late 90s comedy. It's full of slapstick, shock humor, and moments that make you go, did they really just do that? Or did they really just say that? Right? But nowadays, the combination of animal abuse played for laughs, drugging pets, people, SA jokes, fat shaming, stalking as romance, and using slurs, that would not fly in today's climate. That's all I'm gonna say. And that's it for the video. Do you think this movie would fly in today's standards? Let me know down below. Catch you in the next one.